Welcome into the Blanco Show, presented by Barrio Tacos, alongside Austin Crume and Sara Sharp, as well as our producer, Caleb Spinner. I'm Tyler Danburg, and we welcome you in to a brand new season. The postseason, number 13 Ohio State taking on number 12 Wisconsin. The two of the bottom three seeds in the Big Ten tournament will do battle and begin the weekend at the United Center in Chicago. We have a good one. Now, who would have thought that Ohio State and Wisconsin would be the 13 and 12 seeds and playing the opening game of the Big Ten tournament? But here we are, the Buckeyes and Badgers looking to try and make a deep tournament run. Wisconsin, they need at least a win or two to try and stay on the bubble and try and make an NCAA tournament. Ohio State, they're 13 and 18 on the year. Austin, they need to win the Big Ten tournament to get an automatic bid and solidify a position in the NCAA tournament.
I mean, just looking at the fact that they're 13 and you have teams just at the top, Purdue, Rutgers, Northwestern, you know how difficult it is just to even get a win over Wisconsin, let alone win the entire thing itself. I mean, you have to be playing with some fire, and even the two wins that they had gotten in the last three games that may have helped. But that Michigan State loss, we don't know how much of an impact it's going to have, but a loss going into a tournament is something you never want to deal with.
And Sara, this is a deep Big Ten tournament, and the winner will face Iowa. And that'll be a team that will probably find a way into March if they can get a couple wins as well in the Big Ten tournament. But it just tells you how deep this tournament and this league is.
Absolutely. And you talked about Ohio State having to make a solid run in the Big Ten tournament. And it's interesting to keep in mind just the talent that they do have on this team, even with all the losses that they've had. And they beat Iowa earlier on in the season in their first matchup against them. So the potential is there. It's just whether or not they're going to be able to perform.
So let's take a look at how these teams have gotten here. Let's start off with Ohio State. They started off the season strong. They won 10 of their first 13. But then they lost 14 of its next 15, anchored by a 9-game losing streak that began after a win that Sara pointed out, that one on January 24th. But they have been able to rely on their young core led by really four strong freshmen, including Bryce Sensabaugh, Roddy Gale, Bruce Thornton, who's came along nicely, and Felix Okpara, who Austin has really had to step up as of late with no Zed Key, as he just underwent shoulder surgery and will not play the rest of the year.
Yeah, knowing that Zed Key is out, the kind of anchor of your defense, that five, that positioning that hasn't been set for Ohio State, having Okpara play the center and do as well as he has, especially going up with guys like Zach. I mean, you put him up there as a freshman going up against the best center in all of college basketball. It's difficult to do, and he's shown that he deserves to get some playing time on a big stage.
He played over 30 minutes in that game, and I don't think Okpara realized back on January 5th that he was going to have to play up against the 7'4" big man out of Canada. And then Sara, to break that losing streak, Ohio State, not only did they win once, but they won twice. They defeated Illinois, and then last Wednesday, they beat Maryland. That was their first ranked win since November in the Maui Invitational over Texas Tech. So I'll leave you with this. Does this kind of give a little bit of a momentum swing for Ohio State and makes you think that they have what it takes to take a couple games in this tournament?
I want to say yes, but I think it would have been even more of a momentum swing if they would have been able to win that game against Michigan State. I think after having those two wins, people started to look up. Maybe they were going to come in swinging in this tournament, but then they stopped it with a loss at Michigan State. So maybe, I don't want to 100% say no. I don't want to say yes, but it would have been more of a momentum swing with 3 wins coming into the tournament.
And of course, that loss, a 6-point defeat against the Michigan State Spartans coming at the Breslin Center in East Lansing. They were down early on, but then Ohio State clawed their way back. They cut the lead down to 1 possession for the Spartans, but in the end, MSU and their home crowd, they were able to get out. They had a huge game from A.J. Hoggard and Tyson Walker, the 2 guards in the backcourt. As for Wisconsin, they're coming off a win against Minnesota in the border battle. It was a lot closer than maybe some might think, but the Badgers, they've been playing good as of late, and they're at their best when they have their entire starting lineup at full strength, and they've gotten a couple of big games out of a rising freshman, Connor Essegian.
I mean, what do you expect from him? He's one of the best freshmen in the Big Ten, if not the entire country. So you know he's going to go out at a 6'4" frame. He's going to be a good two-guard specifically, especially with how good of a three-point shooter he is as well. If he's open, he's going to shoot it the best he's got. So Ohio State's defense, they're going to have to step up on him with how well he's done recently.
Barrio Tacos is now open right in the heart of the Ohio State campus at 15th and High Streets. Barrio is serving tacos and margs late night each night and has an incredible happy hour with half-off margaritas and $1 off tacos weekdays from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Don't forget, Barrio is now accepting Buck ID and offers to-go and DoorDash. You can also catch Barrio inside the Horseshoe during game days in the fall at Section 10A and at their taco truck year-round, Mondays to Fridays, parked right outside the RPAC. 17-13 overall are the Badgers, 9-11 in Big Ten play compared to Ohio State with a 5-15 Big Ten record. So a pretty big gap between the two teams and the 12 and 13 seeds. Sarah, if you had to highlight a player for Ohio State, who would it be coming into this game?
Well, you talked a little bit about their star freshman, and I think Bruce Thornton is one that we need to keep in mind. In that last game against Michigan State, they did lose. He had 20 points, though, against Michigan State. He had 10 points in the game before, 20 and 19 in the 2 games before that. So he's been putting up solid numbers, averaging 10 points a game, and especially as somebody who is a facilitator and a guard, that's his main role is to facilitate. It's difficult to score points, and he's been doing both of those jobs really well.
What about Wisconsin? Who's a key player to watch for you?
I'm going to say Steven Crowell for Wisconsin, and it's important to keep in mind we talked a lot about Felix Okpara and his ability to guard down low, and with Zed Key out, he's going to have to step up against another 7-footer in this Wisconsin team who also had 21 points in their last game in their win against Minnesota.
And Stephen Crowley's one of 2 7-footers in the country to average over 2.5 assists per game. That's the first Badger to do so since Frank Kaminsky back in the early 2010s. A couple of great teams for the Badgers. That actually was the last time they won a Big Ten tournament. Austin, for Ohio State, who's a key player to watch for you?
I think Okpara 100%. I mean, you got the 7-footer battle. We have talked about it already, but he's got to go in as a freshman. He's going to be under a lot of pressure here. He knows it. He's the only 5 that the team has going up against the rest of the 7-footers. He might play the entire matchup because who else is going to go in behind him at this point? You don't really have a couple freshmen who haven't gotten as much big minutes in actual Big Ten matchups. So Okpara might have to do some of the heavy lifting here on defense.
Also, in terms of offensive prowess, Bryce Sensabaugh just named to the all-freshman team alongside Wisconsin's Connor Essegian, losing out just by a couple of votes in the Big Ten Freshman of the Year. But how important is Sensabaugh in a game like this? Single elimination, Sarah, winner take all, winner go home. How important is Ohio State's leading scorer in this one?
Extremely important, not only in his scoring ability, but his leadership as well. And two, with his scoring, he needs to be able to see the court well and find open players because we know how well he can score. So we know that Wisconsin's going to be thinking they need to shut him down, whether that's a double team or just triple team, anything. So he needs to be looking for any of his open offensive players, maybe find somebody else, get a few more assists, get some other points up by other players we know who can score as well.
That's a great point. Chris Holtman saying that the last month for Sensabaugh has been some of his best offensively all year long. So to get the job done and begin the Big Ten tournament with a win, Austin, I'll go with you first. What is one key that Ohio State has to do to try and overcome Wisconsin?
So what I looked into once seeing that Wisconsin's a 3-and-D team. They shoot 8.3 threes a game that they make, and I think that they get around 6 steals a game as well. So they're going to be well on both sides of the ball. But they're really good at facilitating turnovers on opponents' offense. So Ohio State, they're definitely going to have to limit the turnovers and look for open men, but also get back on defense with all those three-pointers raining.
What about you, Sarah? For Wisconsin, we'll go on the flip side. What's important for the Badgers and Greg Gard to try and beat Ohio State?
We talked a little bit about just all the different players on the Ohio State team who can score. They have the potential. Bryce Sensabaugh, Bruce Thornton, Felix Okpara, any of those players who have the ability to go out and score double digits. And so it's just going to be important for Wisconsin to go out, play solid defense, and prevent them from having a high offensive game.
So the winner of this game, they will then take on Iowa, the 5th seed, the next game. Then after that, they will have to take on number 4 Michigan State if they advance, and then they would play the winner of Purdue or either Rutgers or Michigan. So this is going to be a really tough gauntlet of a task ahead for either the 13 seed Ohio State Buckeyes or the 12 seed Wisconsin Badgers. So is it important to take this just more so one game at a time, because there's going to be a big task ahead to try and keep advancing this weekend in Chicago?
Ohio State, they have nothing to lose here. They have to win the entire thing to even have a chance to be one of the last 4 teams in. Why not go make some carnage? Upset the country, upset the Big Ten, show people that you deserve to do it. I mean, we saw how well they did over their last 2 wins over Maryland and Illinois. And they have beaten Iowa. They beat them 93-77 on January 21st at home at the Shot. But then again, they did lose to them when they were in Iowa. So you got to kind of see how they're going to play here. But yes, one game at a time, 100%. Focus on Wisconsin first. If you can get to that next game, give it everything.
Sarah, outside of Wisconsin and Ohio State, looking at the entire Big Ten tournament field, if there's one team that you think could really make a lot of noise and make a lot of impact, and that can be the number 1 seed and the regular season champions Purdue, or it could be another team, who would be that one that kind of interests you to see how they can make a little bit of a run here in this tournament?
I think it sounds like a basic answer saying Purdue, but I'll be interested to see how they take the pressure that they have coming off such an amazing regular season into the postseason, if they're going to be able to embrace that pressure and sweep the Big Ten tournament or worry about an upset from a smaller seed.
I also have to agree with that. I mean, Zach Edey, Purdue, they're the 5th best team in the country right now, looking into the big dance in just a week or so. If they go in and they are upset, the AP polls in the country are going to look at them. Maybe they can't handle the pressure of being such a high stage. Yes, you won the Big Ten men's, but if you can't win when it matters, everyone knows how crazy March can be. If you can't win when it matters the most, no one's going to remember the rest of the regular season.
This is March. Anything can happen. So if we had to get into our Big Ten tournament predictions, would you both say that Purdue would be your prediction to win the Big Ten tournament?
Yeah, I have to say Purdue.
Either Purdue or Northwestern.
Oh, going with Chris Collins, Northwestern Wildcats. Okay. I would probably say Indiana as well. I think we've seen the last couple of weeks, we've seen Jalen Hood-Schifino, the freshman of the year, really start to take matters into his own hands. And then when you also have Trace Jackson-Davis, that also helps. So we'll see what the Hoosiers can do as well, in addition to the Wildcats. Just what a story that's been in Big Ten basketball this year and in college basketball as a whole. So we will begin our coverage. It'll tip off on Scarlet and Gray Sports Radio coming up Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 5:30 Central. And we will have the call, the 3 of us, and that will basically be our coverage schedule. But then who knows? If Ohio State wins, then we will talk to you around 2:30 Eastern, 1:30 Central after the first game on Thursday, but that will still be decided. So we will have coverage of 13 seed Ohio State, 12th seed Wisconsin coming up 6:30 Eastern Time on Scarlet and Gray Sports Radio on Wednesday evening. For Sara Sharp, for Austin Crume, for Caleb Spinner, I'm Tyler Danburg saying so long for the Block O Show presented by Barrio Tacos.